All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here early on a Tuesday morning after a holiday. Thanks for committee members being here. We do have a 9 o'clock hard stop for Rules Committee, so we'll try to be in and out of here fairly brief. And if we can, as we begin the day, Dean Green, would you offer a word of prayer for us?
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, as we gather here this morning, may we be mindful of the tasks before us. And Father, we just ask you to be with us, guide us, help us to understand what we are about to do for the people of the state of Georgia. And Father, we just ask you to bless these individuals that direct these agencies. And bless us, oh Father, as we listen and discern and are able to put forth a budget. Father, be with us and guide us and direct us. Forgive us of our sins and shortcomings. And we ask all of this in the name of our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. If y'all will close the back door there, please, sir. Commissioner Tyler Harper, thank you for being here today. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. First off, just want to say thank you for this committee's work on the amended budget. We appreciate your support and your help. We're continuing to work with the Senate on their side of the House and look forward to that continued conversation on amended this morning. Related to the big budget, fiscal year 27, just rolling right on in the governor's recommendation, I'm going to just blanketly speak to and talk about the administrative reductions, everything from DOAS adjustments to the technology services adjustments. I'm not going to speak to those. I think y'all know those are the typical administrative changes that are made in the budget basically every year. I'm going to speak directly to those issues that affect us directly at the department and our operational needs this morning. So with that said, in the governor's budget, they included $140,000 for our food safety division software funding that we asked for, and this is going in line with the other software that we discussed during the amended. So we would appreciate your continued support of that. The governor, they removed the $450,000 that y'all put in the budget last year for high-path avian influenza for us for equipment purchases. Obviously, we're in the process of acquiring and obtaining the majority of that equipment. Some of that has been obtained. Others are in the process of being purchased. That said, though, just as a side note, high-path avian influenza this year has cost us as an agency, the 3 events so far, about $260,000 to $70,000. We only get about a third of that back from the federal government in reimbursement, just to put that in perspective. So, and last year it was a little over $300,000 cost that we incurred related to high-path avian influenza. And so obviously that and other emergency responses are things that are top of mind that we continually looking at to ensure that we have the capability to address those issues as quickly as possible. The governor also included a little over $576,000 for the COLA adjustments. This again goes along with what we talked about during the amended. We, as I mentioned before, glad to have our new CFO in place. She started last January, and we've been working together to work through our budget to understand where the holes are and ensure that we're funded appropriately and have the resources we need to do our job. And this is one of those areas where we found that we were shorted for those funds related to those pay raises, and we would appreciate your consideration of keeping that in the budget. The governor included that to make us whole on those COLA adjustments from prior years. In addition to that, the governor included a little over $1 million in relation to retention of positions. This gets into the whole conversation of compression, retention, retainment of employees, and we appreciate the governor's help on that and giving us the ability to continue to hire the best and keep the best and be able to do the job that we're asked to do every single day as an agency in protecting our state's #1 industry. And we would appreciate the committee's help and your favorable consideration of that particular line item as well, because it goes to, at the end of the day, like I said, it goes to ensuring that we continue to have the resources to keep the personnel we need to do the job that we're asked to do every single day. When you move into our administrative budget, it's mainly two items related. One of them related to the COLA adjustment, as I spoke to just a second ago, and then also the elimination of the $250,000 for the one-time ag project from last fiscal year. In our marketing budget, the main things are the adjustment for the COLA, as I mentioned before, the reduction of the $200,000 for the Georgia Grown Wood product program, or the marketing program that we've been doing in conjunction with the Georgia Forestry Commission. I know y'all agreed with the governor and increased that to $660 for the fiscal year AFY 26, and we look forward to continuing the efforts through that to ensure that our #1 forestry state, it being Georgia, continues to promote our Georgia grown wood products right here and find ways to allow our forestry industry to be successful. As y'all know, it's been pretty difficult in that particular sector. And then just the true up of the agricultural trust fund and the collection of fees. In relation to the Rural Center, it's the continuation budget from last fiscal year, a little under $2.4 million, and you'll hear from Charlie in just a second. In relation to capital projects and bonds, the governor included a little over almost $2.3 million for replacement of vehicles. Again, as I've always talked about, this is one of those things that we need constantly as an agency. We have a lot of vehicles. Those are our employees' offices, and we work to ensure that that helps with recruitment and retention as well. And so we would appreciate the favorable consideration of that, and obviously consideration in future years as we move forward because of the number of vehicles that we turn over as an agency. The next thing in the bond package is the $25 million for the new lab at the Atlanta State Farmers Market. As all of you know, I talked about this in the joint session, but last year y'all were generous and gave us funds for design for the new lab. That lab has always been in the agriculture building on the north side of the Capitol here on the top floor. As you can probably imagine, with the new innovation and new technology and where labs have gone since, the need for additional lab space and capacity is critical for us. In addition, the lab space that was here was not meeting the needs of the agency. And at the same time, I would think you would agree that I don't know that a laboratory has a place on Capitol Hill. I think it needs to be in a better location to better serve the customers that we serve every single day. And so those are our primarily food and dairy labs. We have also included additional space in that lab for the hemp program to give us the capability to ensure that we're addressing that and able to test those products as quickly as possible. As you can imagine, we do a lot of that. Right now we're using private labs for that service. At the same time, with our food and dairy lab, we're sending a lot of samples out of state, and we're having to rely on other labs to help provide the services for us because we don't have the space to do that. And lastly, the Tifton lab that we have, that many of you are familiar with, serves as a backup lab for our Atlanta lab. Unfortunately, the Atlanta lab has never had the capability to serve as a backup to the Tifton lab because we have not had the space. This would give us the ability to have additional space should the Tifton lab ever go down. We would have the capability of standing up facilities here in this lab to provide as a backup to that Tifton lab if needed ever in the future. So it is a critical part of what we do. Our laboratory network is very important to the safety and security of the food supply, to confidence in the marketplace, but also for our farmers and producers across the state as well. So that said, the estimate that we received on the construction of that lab was $34 million. The governor included 25. We're asking the committee's favorable consideration in taking 25 to 34 for the construction of that lab. Obviously, GISFIC is still in the middle of that design process, but through the work that we did as an agency on the front end, a lot of the work that we already done showed that the need for that particular amount, and I was told to proceed as is, and so that's what we're continuing to ask for, the $34 million for the Atlanta State Farmers Market, the new lab that will be placed at the Atlanta State Farmers Market. In relation to the last item, the governor included almost the $1 million for the Tifton Lab recommissioning. This is the final phase in that, in giving us the funding needed to address the issues that we had there at the lab, from HVAC and other things. As you know, airflow and those things that are critically important for laboratories. This will finalize all of that work that we've been doing at the Tifton Lab over the last couple of years to help ensure that it's able to provide the service as quickly as possible and do it in the most efficient and effective way as possible and provide the best possible outcome. So that's the governor's budget, Mr. Chairman. Y'all, we've talked about this. I'm not going to go into this very much. I will say a lot of this on this sheet, y'all helped us out in the amended fiscal year 26 budget to provide funding for that, most everything on here has been covered. The only exception, obviously, is the lab construction, the facility construction on the additional funds to get to the $34 million estimate that we, the construction estimate that we are working off of, based off of the need that we have as an agency. The only other thing I'll mention is obviously the federal funds and the shortfall from the feds continue to be something that we have a challenge with, that we constantly deal with as an agency, and that is something that we're constantly keeping an eye on, and working with our federal partners to ensure that we have the funding necessary to provide the services we're asked to provide, and that becomes a constant issue for us. And we look forward to continuing those conversations with our federal partners to ensure that we have those funds, but wanted to put that on your radar, that definitely continues to be an issue for us as an agency. And then lastly, we've talked about this before, the number of licenses we issue now, how many we've seen over the last 3 years, and the employment and our employment across the board, and the vacancies that we have. We continue to work on that. Thanks to your help, we have reduced our what's the rate? Turnover rate. That's the word I'm looking for. We've reduced our turnover rate thanks to your help, and we continue to work on that, hire the best and ensure that we have the employees necessary to do the job. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my part of the presentation. I know the committee wanted to hear from the Rural Center, and I'm going to turn it over to him, and after Charlie gets done, we can both take questions really quick. The Rural Center, as all of you know, was transferred to the Department of Agriculture as of July 1st of last year. We worked over the fall to finalize all of that, and really and truly January 1st is, I would say, was when it all really transferred. All the employees were transferred to the department. All the employees of the Rural Center were moved into department provided office space and facilities, primarily that being in Tifton and then also in Ellijay, and also the hiring of a new executive director. We worked to do that, and with the approval of the Rural Council, have hired Charlie Five-Ash to be the new executive director of the Rural Center. Charlie's hit the ground running with the whole team, Bridget, Deb, and Scott, and I appreciate the work that all four of them continue to do, and I'm going to turn it over to and introduce y'all to Mr. Charlie Five-Ash, who's the new executive director of the Rural Center, and let him give y'all a brief update on the center. Thank you. Charlie?
Good, thank you. Before you get away, Mr. Commissioner, make sure I got the button, the tab to push to forward the...
Just press the arrow button.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let me say, Mr. Chairman, the best thing that happened to the Rural Center last year was coming under the auspices of the Commissioner and the Department of Agriculture. So we're excited and very enthusiastic about the opportunity to be part of the Department of Agriculture and continue to serve rural Georgia in that capacity, and can think of no other agency that's better suited to house the rural center. So we're grateful for that. I'm grateful for the employees that Dr. Bridges had hired and left with us, so a few of them are with us today, and grateful for their work and continued service to rural Georgia. So we're excited about what the future holds and being able to move forward. So under Tyler's leadership, as he said, we've hit the ground running, and we're excited about what the future holds and having that impact on rural Georgia. So we understand the implications. Georgia is the best state in which to do business, and we want to make sure that all of Georgia prospers, and especially our rural partners, and we appreciate the support that you, Mr. Chairman, have given us from a funding standpoint, and Chairman Green, we appreciate your continued support. We're right down there in your hinterlands there in southwest Georgia, and proud to have our flag planted right there in Tifton. So grateful for the opportunity to be here today, and to thank you for the introduction, Commissioner, and look forward to sharing with you what we've got to share today. Make sure I can find my forward button here. There we go. As you guys know, this agency has not been around a long time. 2018 is when we were founded, and Speaker Ralston was very influential, as well as several others here in the room, to get the Rural Center off the ground. And we feel very good about what we've been able to accomplish thus far with as we say, with a small staff and a small budget. So we did not come before the committee asking for any more funding. We feel good about what we have in place, and want to continue to build those relationships and work with our partners here in the room, Department of Community Affairs, Department of Economic Development, our regional commissions around the state. So we feel like that we are taking a proactive approach to getting in front of those individual communities that are considered rural, which, by the way, we figure about a third of our counties and communities here in Georgia are considered rural, with populations 15,000 or less. So those are the communities that need our help, and that's why we're glad that we're here underneath the Department of Agriculture and in a position to provide assistance, both human capital and a little bit of funding that would be available as well for those communities. So then we'll talk a little bit about the focus. As you well know, some of what we do is what I call seed capital. In other words, we provide dollars from our budget after salaries and overhead. We do have a bit of a limited budget to allocate toward those communities that have economic development needs, and a lot of those are in the healthcare world. Agribusiness is a big focus of ours, especially now being part of the Department of Agriculture. We provided for housing studies, and a big part of what we do is engineering studies in preparation for larger projects. For example, if a community is at capacity in their existing industrial park, that's where we would provide civil engineering studies to enhance and further those opportunities as far as infrastructure. We don't have the funding to be able to fund actual infrastructure projects, but can certainly help with engineering studies. In fact, we're doing that in the city of Sparta right now. We just approved to help Sparta. They've got some serious gas line issues, and we've been able to provide for them some funding to help them go after some federal funding, and also some engineering studies to try to right the challenges that the city of Sparta has. So you'll see that we've got quite a bit of statewide coverage. You'll see there's a strong influence and impact there in northwest Georgia, and part of what we do, even before becoming part of the Department of Agriculture, was the Georgia Grown Trails. That's something that our entity is responsible for in promoting, and we further have partnered with the Department of Agriculture now to enhance those Georgia Grown Trails. So that's why you see a bigger impact in certain parts of the state. But like we like to say, we've impacted rural Georgia, but we also impacted all 159 counties within the state, just with some of our statewide initiatives and the impact that those rural initiatives have had. But again, our focus is those smaller and more rural communities that we want to keep the mission focused on rural Georgia and enhancing rural Georgia. So here's just a few examples of some of the projects we're involved with in just this calendar year, and some of the projects that we passed, we were fortunate that we've been able to allocate that funding towards about 4 to 5 projects per quarter, and that suits pretty well with our budget. And so we're always looking for new opportunities. We're grateful for the help of the legislature. Many in the room have helped us source opportunities, and we're grateful for that. So we continue to work with the legislature to ensure that we can get in front of where the real needs are. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Happy to field any questions.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for the great work that you're doing there at the Center for Rural Prosperity. As you know, rural Georgia has many challenges across the spectrum, and the creation of the center, as you mentioned earlier, in 18 as a way to help focus on some of these issues. Please let us know as you're moving forward. Keep us updated on what we're doing and how we're able to achieve what we're able to. I know we've got more funding than what we've had in the past. Of the projects that you mentioned, are those projects that are being funded solely out of the 26 budget?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, and I do need to make that accolade that we appreciate the additional funding that your subcommittee did provide. That additional funding was extremely helpful and enable us to get into more rural communities, so grateful for that. So that is correct.
Well, I know we have, as you mentioned, we have many folks around our state who have expertise in this area, and I hope that we're all bringing them to the table as we go into these communities to help them address the issues of bringing more industry into their communities. Commissioner Harper, if I might ask you on 1339, the million for retention, that does not include any of the positions that you had previously spoken about that were needed in order to issue some more license around our state. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. This is strictly to help us retain and address compression and issues with current employees.
And do you have a number in mind for, as we are continuing to grow in Georgia and our industry and agriculture, what those additional inspectors?
So I would tell you right now, Mr. Chairman, we have a vacancy of about 7 in our meat inspection program. I think if we were able to fully fill that out, we would be in a much better spot. Obviously, continuing to recruit and retain those employees is very difficult. That's why that $1 million is so critical for us, to ensure that we have the funding to continue to do that across the board, not just in meat inspection, but across the board. That said, though, Mr. Chairman, if you remember last year, and we didn't come with that specific request this year because we were wanting to focus on our current staffing needs and our current employees to ensure that we're able to maintain what we have and then build from that moving forward. But last year we did ask for some additional slots in meat inspection. Y'all helped us with a few of those, but that is definitely something that we could definitely look at continually moving forward. I think it is in that area, but it's also in, as I've mentioned before, it's not just in meat inspection, it's across a multitude of different areas. We just, I obviously use that one as it's one that you can easily relate to because of the direct impact it has on farmers, but also the direct impact it has on consumers as well. And that said, continuing that conversation, for us to continue the economic development opportunities, which we're having those conversations with the Rural Center, with our Georgia Grown program, and our federal partners. Had meetings last week specifically about opportunities in rural Georgia for things like butcher shops and other opportunities. For us to do those, though, we have to have the staffing and the employees to ensure that we can staff those facilities. So to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, that funding is specifically to help us continue to ensure that we're able to keep the best and brightest. It would take additional funding to hire additional folks to allow us to continue to do the job that we're asked to do every single day.
Well, we certainly appreciate the job that you do and that of the employees of the department, but also realize the challenges that we're trying to work to address across our state, and if folks are willing to open up new businesses and impacting agriculture from a positive in a positive way, then we certainly want to do what we can. As members of this committee knows, that inspector's got to be on site for that business to operate, so we will continue to work with you in that manner to make sure we're addressing those issues. Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate
Director,
it.
thank you for being
y'all.
here today. We're going to deviate from the agenda just for a moment and call Miss Mary with Georgia Humanities up. She has a special guest in attendance with her today. Miss Dale, thank you for being here, and I want to go ahead and give them the opportunity to make their comments.
Thank you so much, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you here today. I want to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to both Governor Kemp and the committee for your support of Georgia Humanities in the amended fiscal year 2026 budget, particularly for America 250 programming. We are deeply thankful for the governor's recommendation and for the House's thoughtful support of that effort. We're also grateful today that the governor has continued to include Georgia Humanities in his fiscal year 2027 budget at our long-standing level of $62,300. We value his continued confidence and the stability that sustained support has provided over many years. As you are aware, we have requested an increase to $250,000 for fiscal year 2027, and let me explain why. First, value. For every $1 the state invests in Georgia Humanities, we bring in approximately $4 additional in federal, local, and philanthropic funding. State investment functions as matching capital, unlocking external resources and keeping those dollars working in communities across Georgia. Second, impact. Our programs strengthen education and workforce development, expand cultural infrastructure, support tourism, and enrich communities across Georgia, especially in small rural areas. Let me briefly highlight 4 scalable programs that state investment would strengthen. Our Community Grants Program is the foundation. By expanding grants to meet growing demand, we will empower local schools, libraries, museums, and nonprofit organizations to design programs rooted in their own history and culture. These grants keep resources local, stimulate partnerships, and allow towns across Georgia to tell their own stories. Next, through Smithsonian Museum on Main Street, we bring nationally curated exhibitions into rural communities specifically that they might not otherwise have access to. These exhibits draw visitors, support local businesses, increase tourism activity, and build lasting cultural capacity. The program continues into 2027 and remains one of the strongest rural cultural development tools to the state. The Georgia Circuit, created for America 250, builds on that foundation. As a statewide speakers and public programs bureau, it brings historians, artists, and civic leaders directly into communities to foster civic learning and civil dialogue. It is designed as a lasting legacy, ensuring that the civic infrastructure built for the 250th anniversary continues well beyond it. And in our classrooms, National History Day Georgia, widely regarded as a national model for civic and history education, serves approximately 15,000 students each year while providing professional development to more than 1,000 teachers annually. The program strengthens research skills, writing ability, critical thinking, and presentation skills, competencies valued in today's workforce and essential to long-term economic vitality. These programs are scalable, the infrastructure is in place, the partnerships are strong. Increased state investment allows us to reach more students, support more teachers, strengthen more rural communities, and generate greater economic and cultural return for Georgia. And finally, let me talk about stability. We have requested this increase not only to expand impact, but to ensure long-term stability. State dollars provide the reliable foundation that allows us to fully leverage federal and philanthropic resources and plan responsibly for the future. Because federal funding requires a dollar-for-dollar match, stable state investment ensures that Georgia fully retains and deploys the federal dollars allocated to our state. Without sufficient matching support, those resources cannot be fully drawn down for Georgia communities. Following a difficult year of federal disruption, Georgia Humanities absorbed those challenges responsibly, strengthened philanthropic support, and continued delivering statewide. Georgia Humanities' budget request represents a modest investment in the context of the overall state budget, but its impact is multiplied many times over. We remain disciplined stewards of public funds, and with stable support, we will continue delivering measurable return and statewide impact for Georgia. We are grateful for Governor Kemp's continued partnership at current levels, and we respectfully ask for your consideration of this increase. Thanks, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mary. Any questions from members of the committee? Dean Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, good morning, and thank you for what y'all are doing for the 250th. This is something very dear to me, and I hope that we will be able to share this not only in the larger cities, but make sure that the rural areas are brought into this. They're wanting to do things, they just need guidance, and I hope that y'all will be able to help them guide. And if I can help you in any way, please call on me to do so. I'd be delighted to do that in my 9 counties.
I appreciate that so much, and we care very much about rural communities. We're always providing grants. Our new Speakers Bureau, if they don't know what to ask for a grant for, we can send them somebody they can choose from a curated list. And we're all about capacity building. So we're not just, for example, with Museum and Main Street, we don't just deliver an exhibit. We have 2 state scholars that go to the communities that help them develop their own programs about their own stories in their own places. And we think that when the exhibit leaves, we want them to be stronger after the exhibit passes by.
Thank you for what you did on some of your traveling art things that ended up at Andrew College there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Green. Have you solicited the General Oglethorpe? You know, he came by last week to see some of his old friends here in the legislature. Just wanted to make sure that you do solicit him to speak to some of these groups. But Mary, thank you for being here today and in your presentation.
Thank you so much.
All right, Public Service Commission. There they are. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, subcommittee
sir.
members, Ms. Bailey. It's great to see you all again, so thank you for allowing us to be here. My name is Reese McAllister. I'm the Executive Director at the Georgia Public Service Commission. And on behalf of our Chairman, Jason Shaw, he sends his regrets. He had a scheduling conflict and could not be here, so he sent me in his stead. So thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And on behalf of the entire Public Service Commission staff, we thank you for allowing us input into the budget process. And we'd also like to thank you for your additions to the amended FY 2026 budget. And we ask in the 27 budget that you analyze these additions that were made or recommended in the FY 2026. We're hopeful those will remain through the Senate and through the entire budget process. Your understanding and duties and challenges of the Commission are not only recognized but are also greatly appreciated at the Commission. I did bring our Utility Director back with me today, Mr. Tom Bond, back so that if you have any questions regarding energy load growth, how we meet that load growth, or our efforts to prevent cost shifting. As I understand, there are quite a few bills under consideration by the General Assembly regarding data centers and their impact on electricity rates. So Tom is here to answer any of those questions you might have regarding those issues, not me. So he's here for that. This is not in my briefing sheet, but it bears repeating. As I said at the last meeting, the PSC does not approve or certify data centers. It has no say in the approval of site selection for data centers, nor does it monitor data center construction. The PSC's mission is to ensure that Georgia Power can meet the needs of its customer base and to prevent cost shifting from one customer to another. This mission is critical to the economic development of the state of Georgia. Now, regarding the FY 2027 budget on page 92, line 3049, the Governor has included $34,560 for dedicated security at PSC meetings, and we request you support this recommendation. We are a fully accessible and transparent agency. We have public witnesses attend and speak at all our commission hearings as well as at our committee meetings twice a month. Many of our hearings begin with 2 to 3 hours of public witness testimony before we get to the actual expert witnesses. So the public's very involved at the meetings at the commission. Commissioners meet off the record with many parties who are not interveners but are interested in the case privately in their offices to discuss the issue. So we allow a lot of public input. There's great interest and robust input from the public at all of our meetings. Unfortunately, there have been instances recently when this public participation has been a little too spirited and a little too robust, which has led the PSC to request assistance from the Department of Public Safety for security needs. Just a couple of examples of those I have in a recent proceeding within the last few months. We had a group of protesters take over our hearing room as we were trying to start our hearing. We couldn't proceed until the State Patrol actually removed the protesters from the room. Within the last few years, we actually had an individual zip tie themselves to the doors that lead down to our hearing room so nobody could get into the hearing room, and that person remained there. Obviously, we didn't go remove them until the State Patrol could get there and remove them and break them away from the zip ties to the door. But Colonel Hitchens and Major Langford have been very helpful. But due to staffing needs elsewhere, they cannot guarantee coverage for all the commission proceedings. So this appropriation for the governor will allow the commission to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Public Safety to ensure that we have security coverage for all commission proceedings. And we do have one additional request for the FY 2027 budget. In years past, the PSC employed 5 executive assistants, 1 for each of the 5 elected commissioners. In 2019, as part of an effort to reduce funding in a tight budget year, the PSC did not fill an open position, and since then we've employed only 4 executive assistants for the 5 commissioners. Chairman Jason Shaw and Vice Chairman Bubba McDonald currently share an assistant. Over the past several years, national inflationary pressures have impacted utility prices at rates greater than most other sectors of the economy, as you're well aware. With these increases, constituent issues likewise have increased. The number of phone calls, emails, scheduling requests, hearings, and other administrative needs in commissioners' offices are nearly overwhelming. I'm sure each of you understand the extent to which elected officials rely on administrative staff and their assistants. And with this increase in administrative needs, it's simply no longer reasonable for 2 of the commissioners to share the 1 assistant. We asked for an appropriation to cover a $58,000 salary that comes to $98,600 with fringe benefits to hire this 1 needed employee. This is a position that has remained on our books but has been unfunded since 2019. As always, the Public Service Commissioners and the PSC staff, we work hard to remain good stewards of the people's money. We welcome any questions or comments that you have on any of our issues or appropriations or on our request for future funding on PSC construction monitoring and on infrastructure expansion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me for those comments. Just in terms of an update, I know in the past that we have provided funding for additional pipeline inspectors. Those are on board, and we're now fully compliant with the feds in that manner. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We filled all those positions. We'll have an audit within the next 2 to 3 months for this year, but we have filled all the positions that you appropriated.
Just wanted to make sure we didn't get them trained and then lose them to somebody else.
No, sir. It's like a 5-year cycle, so they're in the training cycle.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? Mr. Tom, you want to come up and just kind of give us a brief on load growth and that cost shifting that was referenced earlier?
Yeah, we've got a huge influx of what people sometimes refer to as mega customers. Most of them are data centers. Georgia Power's growth load for the last 2 or 3 years has been unprecedented. This fall, the commission had a hearing and approved approximately 10,000 new megawatts for that load growth. The majority of the new megawatts already have contracts behind them or existing customers behind them. There's a couple thousand megawatts still out there that we are waiting contracts for, and if those contracts don't materialize over the next 6 months or so, then the commission will start taking action to scale back some of those megawatts. But the 10,000 megawatts do require construction of 5 new combined cycle plants at 5 different units at 3 different plants in Georgia. The aggregate cost of those is a little over $12 billion. And so the commission will be spending the next 5 years doing a lot of construction monitoring. One of our roles is to make sure that only reasonable and prudent costs can be recovered, and we use construction monitoring to have people looking at those projects full-time to make sure that they are following industry standards and best practices. So, you know, the commission has also been very mindful of the impact on existing customers. They approved new rules this past year to require that all contracts with customers over 100 megawatts, the company can use longer terms, typically 15 years or longer. They have minimum billing requirements so that even if the customers don't use the electricity at all, they still have to pay the incremental costs of the assets that are being built to serve them. They have robust termination provisions that will allow ample time for the commission to take, you know, action to deal with any customer loss. But all of this does require a lot of proactive work by the commission to make sure that costs of these data centers are staying on the data centers. And so that'll be a big activity for us over the next several years.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Any questions from members of the committee? Mr. Tom, thank you. Thank y'all for being here today. Pass our well wishes on to the chairman. Commissioner Nunn. Thank you for being here today, Commissioner.
Good morning. Thanks for the invitation to be here, and thanks for your time. I'll try to be brief. I know you've got a lot to get through today, and I just want to say on behalf of the department, thank you for your continued support. We don't have a whole lot in the FY27 budget in terms of changes. I trust you're well familiar with all of the enterprise changes, so I won't touch on those. And I'm going to go slightly out of order just to dispense with 2 very minor changes. First, at 16.6.1, working off of your tracking sheet, this 16.6.1 is simply a reduction of one-time funds that you included in the budget last year. You directed those to be one-time funds, and we're just simply acknowledging that with a $2 million reduction in the State Housing Trust Fund. I will let Trey Bennett speak to 16.8.1, which is also a one-time funding reduction under the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, which is an attached agency to DCA. I'm going to go back to 16.4.2 because this is the one substantive change that requires a little bit of explanation, and apologies for the mental gymnastics at this early hour. I think there are 2 really important things to understand as background to fully appreciate this really needed addition to our budget, which totals $2.8 million, $2,773,459. One, you heard in the earlier from Commissioner Harper, prior year increases, cost of living adjustments, which were much appreciated, do have some cost impact on the agencies. We talked about these in those prior years. As you've heard from some agencies, there are efforts to go and recoup those cost increases in the agency that really more relate to federal funding. There's an effort to recover that in the form of reimbursement. It's important to understand that at DCA, we administer block grants from HUD, so there is no reimbursement for those additional costs that are borne by the agency. That's the first important point. Second important point, we talk a lot about affordability, particularly housing affordability. That's a key mission at the state and at our agency. We have a number of tools to address housing affordability. One of the tools that I am most proud of is the Georgia Dream program This is a home buyer program, a first-time home ownership program. We talk about it a lot. This has there's no cost to the state. This is done through private activity bonds. Over the last couple of years, we have really increased our efforts to help first-time home buyers get into homes with a new veterans-oriented program. Last year, we were able to help 3,035 households achieve the dream of home ownership. There's an important connection here because that program requires down payment assistance as one of the tools for that. And doing an increased amount of production means that we have an increased need for down payment assistance. How do these two things connect? The prior year increases in our budget, a portion of which, the prior year COLAs in our budget, a portion of which is borne by the agency, have to be covered through other program sources for funding. We are not asking for your support to fully fund all of those, the cost burden from those prior year adjustments, but the $2,773,000 will help us to reduce the burden on our housing programs and enable us to sustain the higher level of down payment assistance needed for the home ownership programs. Simply stated, the Georgia Dream program and other programs have had to bear the brunt of those costs, and we need these funds in order to sustain a higher level of home ownership production. So we're not asking for you to fully fund the $5 to $6 million that we have incurred, but the $2.773,459 it would enable us to offset some of those prior year cost increases and sustain our home ownership production levels. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from members of the committee? I think we're good.
Thanks, appreciate you.
Commissioner. Appreciate you being here. Commissioner Pat Wilson, Economic Development.
Good morning, Chairman,
Good morning, sir.
Committee. Thank you all for the time today. I'm going to make this really simple and easy. I'm going to say thanks first for your help in the amended budget. Very excited about potentially having that $3 million to assist with marketing this year, and then the additional money that you guys put into both the Council for the Arts and the Humanities, the $250,250. Don't think that we did not notice the how great that was for the 250th anniversary of the United States. Other than the adjustment to our premiums and the reduction in employer contribution rate for SHBP, our budget is flat for 2027. And so, I feel like I don't have any great presentation or anything to show, but I do say that our team continues to do an amazing job with the taxpayer dollars that we have been given by the Appropriations Committee, and we look forward to doing the same again this year. So Chairman Meeks, I will turn it back to you since we don't have any major changes, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions from members of the committee? Just as a reiteration, I know you are working on it to make sure that rural Georgia is a part of the soccer games coming up.
Absolutely.
I'm hopeful that we'll get that pushed out in time for them to make plans to be here, and whatever else we can do to help with them to be a part of that and have access to those who are coming. Please let us know.
Chairman, you've said this now for 2 years, and I do appreciate that we've heard you. And I guarantee you that our team is already focused on that and continuing to work to make sure that everybody is ready and ready to move quickly once we hopefully get the money out of the budget.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here today.
No, thank you very much.
All right, GFA, moving right along. Good morning, sir. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Again, my name's Trey Bennett, and I'm the new executive director over at GFA. We do not have a whole lot different from last year. A couple of things I did want to bring up this morning are reduction of $500,000 one-time pass-through funding that we received last year. We were told that that funding was for the city of Auburn for some underground transmission lines that had been left off of the amended 25 budget. Also, another issue that I wanted to just mention is that we are receiving $33.2 million in bonds this year to provide for our 20% match for federal clean water state revolving fund and our drinking water state revolving funds. Last year that was a cash match, and this year it's a bond. But other than that, our budget remains pretty flat. I did want to thank you for your support in the amended budget, the funding that was recommended for our new frontier for economic development, and then also natural gas infrastructure.
Well, thank you for that, and we look forward to forthcoming structure of those programs being rolled out. We know communities across our state are in need of those funding, of those funds. One question that we have talked about from time to time, given the increased cost of doing some of these projects for local communities, water, sewer, et cetera, I do believe that there's a $15 million cap on those projects per community. Are y'all taking a look at that cap to see where we need to go and any potential increases so that communities are able to take these projects, fund them, and complete them?
Yes, sir, we are. That cap was put in place a couple of years ago to help with our cash flow. We are reevaluating our cash flow model right now to just make sure that we are being good stewards of the fund. That said, we do offer some flexibility there with the ability for communities to do phased projects where they can apply a couple different times for one project so that they're able to hit that cap multiple times. And also, we do have a $15 million cap, but we encourage communities to come to us with their projects, and that cap is at times flexible if we're able to make it work.
And that is something that you can do administratively, correct, in terms of
Yes,
the cap?
sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
We do have a board that has to vote, but other
Thank
than
you.
that, yes, sir.
Any question, Dean Green?
Thank you. Welcome aboard, and we look forward
Let me
to
get a match here, Dean. It won't go.
If I can get over there. Thank you. All right, now I'm on. Thank you. Thank you for coming on board and taking on the responsibilities that you have before you. One of the things that we are reminded of every day in the rural areas that our infrastructure is old and it's falling apart. And we need help there. We need advisors to come down and look and help our people put together plans. And if you'll take that role very seriously to help our rural cities and counties, I think this committee would be greatly appreciative. The other thing that you'll be taking some responsibility for is natural gas. And that is going to be a big economic projects for South Georgia. One of our companies, Tyson, is very much interested in doing some expansion, and with that grows our economic development in our region. So we'll need help there as well, and we look forward to working with you on the coming months on those type of projects.
Yes, sir. And as y'all know, we received the capability to fund gas infrastructure last legislative session, and we are in the process of finding out how much that program will be funded this year. But it's something we've gotten a lot of questions about, a lot of attention we're very, very excited about, and we're hoping to roll out those loans this year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here today and the great work that you're doing for Georgia.
Thank y'all.
Director Sabo. Good morning. You're not putting out fires today, are you? You may be surprised.
Can I unplug this one? Thank you. Apologize. There we go. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, Committee, thank you all again for the opportunity. I do want to be quick, but got a quick update from things that's happened in the last couple weeks since last time I've seen this group. So it's pretty relevant, so I figured I would go through it fairly quickly. One, I know some members in the House got to see some of this, but do want to highlight we had a prescribed fire awareness proclamation with Smokey and the governor. So that's always a good time to see Smokey. And after that, you see Representative Lisa Hagan there. She's carrying the prescribed fire bill with us, and she marched Smokey right on up there to see the speaker in front of the House. So he opens doors like nobody I've ever seen before. Also got to recognize one of our employees, Roger Todd. For those that didn't hear the story, Roger's a chief ranger in Charleston County, and him and his guys there standing with him, they saved a family of 6 from a small airplane crash right behind their office there last year, right after session. And so Representative Corbett sponsored a resolution recognizing them. And then we also signed a new shared stewardship agreement between us, DNR, I say we, the governor did, between us, DNR, U.S. Forest Service, and NRCS. And that really allows us to do a lot of good work on private lands, but also good work on a national forest to prevent forest health issues rolling off a national forest, coming onto private lands. But we put metrics in this one to where we're actually able to, GFC is actually able to manage federal timber so that we can ensure we have a sustainable supply of timber for our current bills in that, especially in the northeast corner, but in the northwest corner, and as we look to attract industry. A couple things I want to highlight that's happened since last time I met. Georgia is a 2-time national champ. Our Urban and Community Forestry program was awarded back-to-back awards for the Keep America Beautiful Foundation National Award, so really proud of the work they do, and something I feel like we kind of take for granted as Georgians. We ride around and see all of our beautiful cities and the trees within them, and that does not go without a lot of work and coordination, and our team leads that, and very proud of them. Also want to highlight our forest stewardship program, and something that we're doing a little bit different, and recognizing the lack of markets and what's been going on. Our team has done an outstanding job of looking at states like Arkansas or Mississippi who's lost markets before, and how do we help those landowners. And we have the ability to shift funds for our next cycle, which would be in June, for our traditional southern pine beetle program to help with pre-commercial thinning and even pay for thinning on top of what a landowner may receive. Now, it is a drop in the bucket. It's barely a Band-Aid, but it is something. But with that, we lose funding for prescribed fire. So they went out and found an additional grant to where we're actually working directly with the prescribed fire practitioners and paying them directly to apply prescribed fire to the landscape instead of having to go cost share through landowners and everything else to maybe help get good fire out there. So just really proud of that team and their forward thinking. I always like to highlight interagency. This was down in Lee County, DNR, U.S. Fish, Tall Timbers, and us. And it was a DNR tract and a privately owned tract, and it was burning for a plant that I couldn't regurgitate if you asked me, but as a threatened endangered species, it really depends on fire. So, just a lot of good work being done by the folks in the field that, honestly, I maintain the fact sometimes if we'll get out their way, they do a lot of good stuff. You asked about wildfires. The outlook isn't good, and I bring this up because I hope I'm wrong, but we get in May. I don't want anybody to say, how did we get here? And as y'all know, we're extremely dry. This is starting from your left to right, March, April, and May. The rest of February doesn't look any better, and that southeast corner of Georgia is going to continue to be a high priority area for us. And I will say, I don't really believe what we have seen so far is just a tip, kind of just a start. Two quick indications of that. So the first one playing, this is in Bleckley County. One tractor was able to hold this to 15 acres. It was close to the office, but you can see how flashy and how the fuels are burning. And then the second one was here in Montgomery County, and this was in heavy blowdown and debris. And you can see there's not much left, and that just indicates to us how dry it is. Those larger fuels, we call those 1,000-hour fuels, which means it needs roughly 1,000 hours of drying out before they consume. And you can see they're starting to consume. So that kind of speaks to the drought and the conditions that we are in. Oh, sorry. There we go. Air operations, I think last time I spoke with you, I said we're getting ready to receive our new helicopter. We have received it, and it is outstanding. Got to work its first fire. And 14 drops, 4,900 gallons of water. That would have been unheard of with our previous fleet. So did a lot of outstanding work. We still have a lot to learn with it. The way they can use retardants with it or split their drops and do different things, but it saved us on that fire. Let's see, that fire was in Eccles County. Saturday, before we had all the rain come in, we had 118 fires and 1,700 calls to our dispatch office for different wildfire response and just emergency operations. In the past 10 days, 511 fires for over 3,800 acres. And then Sunday, when it was raining and you think there's no way possible, we do have an arsonist running around in Brantley County. We had a 130-acre fire that we had 10 tractors on in Brantley County. And the rain slowed it down, but ultimately, if we wouldn't have been there, it would have kept going. That continues to be our highest priority for our law enforcement, and they're doing good work. My chief asked me not to narrow down on that too much, but a lot of good cooperation from the local sheriff's office and where we're going there. So it's last thing we need is an arsonist running around. But all that to say, thank you for your support in the AFY budget. I feel like FY27, I tease Commissioner Harper, I think all of our asks were really in the AFY budget. This feels pretty standard. As everybody else said, I'm not going to go over the statewide adjustments and different things. Just thank you for your support on that one. The ones I want to highlight are specific to GFC. 1.10 million, which has been in our budget, but it was for equipment replacement. We're asking to shift that to operational funds. We're going to have to fight the fire regardless, right? The funding has to come from somewhere, so that's one we're asking for. 428,000. So we'll be close to 1.5 in operational funds, but 428 directly for the new helicopter. And just so the group knows, one thing we didn't ask for with the addition of fleet was a pilot. We took one of our other pilots, we worked it internally, got him the training, made him a helicopter pilot. And so we took the cost of, not asking for any additional employees or anything else. It's really just the operational expense, to fly it and maintain it. The 2.4 enhanced retirement for post-certified law enforcement officers. We have 6 officers that do a significant amount of work all around the state. We have 2 that will stay in Brantley County until we resolve that issue down there. They've made 1 arson arrest this year. They're zeroing in on another on top of the Brantley County. So anything we can do to retain them. With 6, I can't afford to have a high overlap with the officer, or a high vacancy rate with the officers, because it's just what they do and how they do it. Their training is unique. When we talk about wildfire cause and origin and timber theft and how they work with the foresters, little bit different, but they are post-certified law enforcement officers and can work with anybody in the state. 148,000 in pass-through funding for Talbot County, and then our capital outlay positions are funding 1.7 for light-duty vehicles. And when I say light-duty vehicles, that's everything from the engines to tractor trailers that pull the tractors, Chief Ranger vehicles, all the other moving pieces and parts other than a tractor or if it flies. 1.6 for major maintenance and repairs, and once again, we stretch that as far as we can. We do a lot of the work ourselves, if remotely possible. We'll see how the rest of the spring and summer goes, what our time availability looks like to do a lot of the work ourselves, but hopefully by this fall, we're slowing down and able to accomplish a lot of good stuff. And then 1.075 for new construction, truck shed, and crew room in Coffee County. That was damaged by Helene, but it was not covered under insurance just due to the level of damage. And while we're renovating everything else, this is an opportunity for us to address some issues there. Older, smaller bays that the equipment doesn't hardly fit in anymore. And, you know, I said this in the joint appropriations, and I'll commit it to it now. If anything we do from here forward, we're going to utilize mass timber to the best of our ability to build stuff. That just feels right for forestry, right? So, and with that, thank you.
Thank you, Director, and thank you for the great work that you and your team do day in and day out around our state. I know we talked last week or week before last on the way home. There was wildfire that escaped over in Appling County, and again, appreciate the work that those employees do in our local communities. Any questions from members of the committee? Well, Director, thank you for being here today. Thank you again for the work that y'all do, and look forward to the upcoming season. Hopefully it will be a little calmer than what we're expecting.
I'll take being bored for a minute. That'd be, yeah. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Director. Any comments, closing comments from members of the committee? If not, the Appropriations Subcommittee on Economic Development stands adjourned. Thank you.